It's about the I got to say, it's the stupidest thing in sports.
Gets the ball, gets back, pulls up for the win. Got it! Detroit basketball.
Oh, Holloman looks the clock, half court for the win.
Oh! The Lions go for it. The Vikings bring it. He's a pass. It's a touchdown to give.
Javi Baez homered earlier. First one in the air, deep left field again. Yes, Tigers win! Javi is unstoppable!
This is BS Sports.
And away we go. Well, friends, it was just one of those weekends. It's just one of those weekends where I gotta say I picked a good weekend to have a vacation from sports. That was tough. No doubt about it. Except for the Red Wings, ironically enough. They actually have won 2 in a row against one team, granted, but 2 in a row. Red Wings off to a pretty good start. We'll see if it lasts. They probably won't. Anyways, welcome to BS Sports. We're back again. We got a lot to talk about. Got a lot on the plate right now. Tigers lose to the Mariners in Game 5. Mariners now up 2-0 in the ALCS, so maybe you don't feel as bad about it. Lions fall to the Chiefs of Kansas City. And Michigan State is officially and now permanently dead.
And now he's dead.
And that's going to be Jonathan Smith in probably a week. Probably around this time on Saturday evening after Indiana pulverizes us, Jonathan Smith will be found in an alleyway somewhere in the state of Indiana.
Man, his ball handling is fantastic.
That's not what they'll be saying. They'll be saying,
And now he's dead.
yes. Anyways, got a lot to say, got a lot to talk about, and all right, let's just jump into the headliner, which is the Tigers. We'll get into the Lions, and admittedly, I'm not as upset about the Lions, but I'll explain why. The Tigers, though, when I tell you that was one of the most excruciating experiences I've ever had watching a baseball game, I am not lying. I'm not exaggerating. I am not trying to be funny. I truly have never had so much angst and anxiety and rage just watching that baseball game. That was just flat out embarrassing. And now here's what you'll say. Here's what some Tiger fans will say. Well, they played a long game. The pitching was elite, which it was. Pitching was elite. They had so many opportunities. They were just getting so close, and they had the lead late in that game, and then they lose it on a base hit. They were in that game all the way through, almost twice the length of a normal game. They were bringing in Jack Flaherty to be your bullpen arm. Here's what I'll say. Look at the box score of this game and tell me this is a success, all right? Do you think it's a success, for example, for your lead home run hitter, one of your best hitters in your lineup, to go 0 for 5? You think that's a success? I don't think so. With a walk. Not like, 1 for 5. I would rather 1 for 5. At least it gets a ball on the green grass. 0 for 5 with a walk and a strikeout. So the walk and the strikeout pretty much average out. In the postseason, Riley Green batted a grand smacking total of 212, 621 OPS. Absolutely putrid. Completely useless in the postseason. A net negative to your team in the postseason. Speaking of net negatives, Spencer Torkelson. Another terrible postseason for him. Well, I guess he didn't really do much last postseason. 188 average, 578 OPS, and in a winner-take-all game, goes 0 for 6 with 4 strikeouts. But wait, there's more. Colt Keith, another one of your young core players, your designated hitter for the night, went a solid 0 for 5 with 3 strikeouts. His batting average in the postseason, 0.67 with a 243 OPS. Now, if I would have told you his average was 243, you would have said, oh, that's not great, but that's all right. No, that's his OPS. That's his on-base plus slugging percentage. Absolutely terrible. And of course, you have bad stuff from Zach McKinstry, Parker Meadows, whatever. Like, I can't get that mad if Zach McKinstry is not playing well in the postseason. He's never been that kind of a player to play well in the postseason. I can be disappointed in a guy like Gleyber Torres, who batted .235 in the postseason with a .698 OPS, and also, by the way, went 0 for 5. You're noticing a theme here, okay? The Tigers, outside of Javi Baez, who had a great postseason, 808 OPS, he had multiple big-time hits with runners in scoring position, hits for, home runs, balls going all the way out of the yard. He was fine. Javi was Javi. I can't get mad at him. I can't get mad at every other player, because this lineup, and this is your postseason line. These are supposed to be your best guys. And I'm sorry, as far as AJ Hinch goes, the idea that you didn't pinch hit any one of these guys throughout the entire game in 15 innings, you're telling me there was no point where you thought Jahmai Jones would have been a better at-bat than Colt Keith or Andy Ibanez or Wenzel Perez? I mean, I'm not saying any one of those three guys are going to give you a much better shot than Keith, Torkelson, Green, whomever. But clearly Keith doesn't have it. He could have been playing through an injury. I don't know how fully healthy he was. But the reality is, you let a guy, a second-year player go 0 for 5 with 3 strikeouts. And there was no desire to bring in a fresh bat in that spot when the Mariners were strained on pitching. Completely unforgivable. Completely unforgivable. And it makes it all the more agonizing because Skubal pitched a masterclass. Skubal is so freaking good. And he deserved to at least win one of his 2 starts of the series. You lose one of your really good starts, okay, that's fine. I can live with that. You lose 2, now I'm getting upset. And you could see that I'm upset. Now, I went over a lot of that postseason stuff, or a lot of the postseason stats, rather, to illuminate what I think should be very, very obvious to this front office, to AJ Hinch, and to the players on the field. You don't have the bats. You don't. You know what the difference between you and Seattle was? Seattle has a guy named Jorge Polanco. They have a guy named Julio Rodriguez. They have a guy named Cal Raleigh. They have a guy named Josh Naylor. I'd take any one of those guys. And granted, Polanco, in general, has not been great in the postseason. Rodriguez, in general, hasn't been great in the postseason. But I would take any number of those guys on my lineup over Colt Keith, Zach McKinstry, or Parker Meadows. I just would. And you would be lying to yourself if you're saying you wouldn't. If you had a choice between Julio Rodriguez or Parker Meadows as your center fielder, only an idiot would take Parker Meadows. Clearly that, quarter of a season he had last year, that is not indicative of the kind of major league player he is, because now we got about, two quarters. I mean, he had trouble staying healthy, so there's that. The point being, you need to fix this whole lineup, okay? You need to upgrade this lineup. Scott Harris, Jeff Greenberg, whatever, I think that's his name. You have to go out and acquire not just one on a 1-year deal like Gleyber Torres. You need a guy that is going to be a steady vet, big name bat. Or I even forget the big name. You need a productive bat to add to this lineup, because clearly Riley Green isn't ready to lead this lineup as a superstar hitter. Clearly Colt Keith is not ready. Clearly Spencer Torkelson is not ready. You need the equivalent of the 2006's Pudge Rodriguez or a Maglio Ordonez. You need one of those kind of big name. Again, I use the phrase big name because usually they are big names. You need that kind of a big presence to where opponents look at the lineup. And when the next guy comes up, you're like, I don't want to, that guy scares me. I felt like that basically every at bat. It was like, okay, finally, we're at the middle part of their order. We got through the top. We got through Rosarena. We got through Raleigh. Got through Rodriguez. Still got to deal with Eugenio Suarez. Still got to deal with Josh Naylor. Still got to deal with Jorge Polanco. Like, we just don't have, even at the bottom, still have to deal with JB Crawford. Like, this Tiger lineup is just not good enough. And as far as whether this season was a success or not, because that's obviously the discussion that really should be had at the end of every season, was the season a success? Undoubtedly, no. How could you say this is a success? You got to the exact same point you were last year, and you lost. You didn't win the division, so you got nothing, no banner to put up. You didn't go beyond in the playoffs. You didn't get a higher seeding in the playoffs. You didn't get a home field event. You were the exact same spot, the same seeding, the same length of time that you played. You played 3 games in the wild card last year. You played 5 games in the wild card this year. I think you played 3 games in the wild, or maybe you might have swept Houston. I don't remember. You could have swept Houston. Either way, you didn't make progress. And I was not expecting the Tigers to win the World Series this year. But what I was expecting, and what I think most fans should expect, is that each and every year you get better in some way. You make your chances of winning a World Series higher. Like, if the plan is that we're just going to run it out, we're just going to let it play out and let, the young prospects come up and develop and okay, that might be a long-term plan, but that we don't have long-term to deal with. Skubal, assuming you don't get this guy signed by the end of next year, is a free agent. Then you're out your best pitcher, and all of a sudden now here comes your young core of hitters. You want to expedite this thing? Start bringing guys in. Start showing Skubal, hey, we're going to be winning here for a long time. Because all he has known is either mediocre baseball or bad baseball. Since he's been on this team, the team has either sucked or made the playoffs but didn't go very far. And outside of him, like, who do you got? Are other teams really terrified of having to face Casey Mize or Jack Flaherty or Reese Olson or Jackson Jobe? None of those guys have shown the ability to be a first, top of your lineup, top opening day starter. None of them. And that's no disrespect to someone. I like Casey Mize. And I think Reese Olson is a very good pitcher. But they're not Skubal. So this is going to be a very big offseason for Scott Harris and for Greenberg and for AJ Hinch. They have to identify, and I think at this point it is so clear, if you want to do the old matchups thing that AJ Hinch likes to do, putting Colt Keith against righty pitchers, putting Kerry Carpenter against righty pitchers. If you want to do that, okay, then maybe it'd be better to have not Jahmai Jones as your lefty killer, but I don't know, Alex Bregman as your lefty killer, or some other bat that actually instills some fear into the other team. Because as fun as Jahmai Jones and Andy Ibanez can be, because they're kind of no names and you don't expect them to really do much damage, and they're local heroes, you don't win World Series that way. You can win some baseball games. You can beat some good teams. You can maybe even win some playoff series that way. I mean, heck, the Tigers did. But it's not sustainable. It's not a long-term strategy. And I just really hope that Scott Harris takes a good look in the mirror and understands that, look, if you want to play big games, you got to make big moves. So you got another offseason to make a big move. He has yet to show any capability of making said big move. And to his credit, the team has been a playoff team the last couple of years. I don't think I was expecting that when he took it over. But you got to get better. And if we basically do the same thing again next year, and if this offseason is basically the same deal as it was last year, where it's minor signings of relief pitchers and maybe you sign a 1-year prove-it deal for a bat, I'm just going to start losing interest. It's going to turn into the Red Wings, basically, where you're not doing anything interesting in the offseason, and I have no reason to believe that you will take anything resembling a leap forward that you need to do. So I will allow for Scott Harris to make the moves he's going to make. I'll evaluate them as they are made. But it's going to be a very interesting offseason. And the fate of baseball in Detroit and my own sanity at having to cover said baseball team for an entire summer is dependent on it. So, Scott, please, at least for my own sake, make the team somewhat interesting next year. Make it so that I can have conversations about being the 1 seed or winning the AL Central or winning the World Series, please. Can I have that? Can I do those shows? I like to have fun on the show. The alternative is not fun. All right. We got a lot of comments here, so we're going to go through all these. I don't know who's saying that, but that's not anywhere close to what I said. Yeah. I don't remember what I said, but yeah, 2:30 in the morning, man. That was tough. Javier Baez basically made the front office keeping this off season, but him, Carey, can't be the only guys to show up. True, very true. They're basically the only 2 bats in the postseason that did anything resembling success. I was screaming for Jahmai Jones, Andy Bundy's, Wenzel Perez in those games. Shouldn't be over Green, Torque, and Colt, but still. See, I kind of disagree. Like, if your young core of guys just not hitting, what are you supposed to do? Like, I mean, heck, AJ Hinch did it in that Cleveland series. He pinch hit Jahmai Jones for Riley Green precisely because Riley Green was not hitting, and he did not hit for most of the postseason. So I honestly, like, I got no problem with you doing it to your supposed superstars, to your season ticket players when they're not playing, when they're not performing. Fortunately, with Max Clark and Kevin McGonigal, do you really think Harris and Greenberg will do anything? The deadline is a clear example. Scott is more focused on his product. See, I don't know. Like, I think the thing is, using the top prospects as evidence that you're not willing to do things, like, there is a reason that they are top prospects. And I'm not a baseball genius, but look, I wouldn't necessarily have supported a move to trade Max Clark and Kevin McGonigal to go get David Bednar. I would think that's a little bit of an overpay, especially when we're talking about a team that does need bats and could get them internally, not necessarily externally. But once again, you're playing with lottery tickets. At least with a free agent or a player right now, you know who and what they are. So. And also, as far as Steve Eisman goes, the problem with him is that his team actually does need a drastic move. And despite them hoarding all of these prospects, they haven't done anything. They haven't weaponized them. At least you could say, and we'll see if Scott Harris actually does want to weaponize his prospects by actually calling them up and bringing them on the team and allowing them to be present there. Steve Eisman has started to do that with Pelika and Nygaard and Finney all making the team this year, but in Eisman's case, you're like a million years in, and it just feels like a desperation move. And maybe it'll work. Who knows? Also, I didn't even read this. Can't blame the injuries for this. Also, yeah, we lost Job and Olsen last year. We dealt with starting pitching injuries last year, and it showed up. We could deal with it. I mean, like our biggest injuries were Olsen and Job. And I guess if you want to call it an injury, Alex Cobb, whom we signed for $15 million, and he didn't play a single game. Not one inning did I see Alex Cobb in a Tiger uniform. You can't even use him as a immaculate grid find for a Tiger pitcher who played for Cleveland. You can't, because he didn't play. It's incredible. Truly. Terry Carpenter should just be the full-time DH, especially with Max Clark coming in and mixing up the outfield. since he's mainly a center fielder. Yeah, Carey plays right. Yeah, I mean, like, you can't have both Parker Meadows and Matt Vierling on this team. One or both of those guys need to go. Matt Vierling, obviously, he goes down with injuries this whole year. He just never gets it going. Parker Meadows, similar deal. Those guys are just not the kind of players that are going to really help you. They're fine baseball players. They're good tool players at best. But if you can't hit, you can't hit. So you're just not very useful to me. Still Perez usually plays. Yeah, Perez is an interesting one. He's a pretty good utility guy as well. He can play the outfield. He can come in a pinch hit spot, bat lefty or righty. So it is what it is. Chris Hill just broke because of that $15 million contract he gave to Alex Cobb. It's true. That's true. I just like, even at the time, that was one of the most like, signings. Like, it's usually a little strange when you're signing somebody out of retirement. That's usually like, okay, that's okay. It could work, but that was your first choice. That seems like a strange thing. I don't understand what the thought process was behind a lot of these moves. Like, what was the thought process behind trading for, say, Chris Paddock? He had a few games where he pitched decently. And Charlie Morton, similar deal. He had a few games where he pitched okay. But then, of course, the wheels fell off. Like, exactly what you would have expected for guys outside of their prime or otherwise just not high-level talents. You'll never really get the answer because, look, these GMs and these organizations are very secretive until, the documentaries come out 10, 20 years later. It simply put, does not make any sense why they traded for those guys. Like, why those were the options at starting pitching. If the thought was maybe we don't have the starting pitching in our bullpen, or we don't have the starting pitching in our farm system, and we don't want to pay premium for guys that aren't going to stay here, so these are going to be the only guys that you might be able to eat some innings, but we have to accept that part of the decline this team had in the second half was because of having to pitch Charlie Morton as one of your starters. I don't know exactly what the record was and what his ERA was, but you lost at least a few games because Charlie Morton was starting for you. I remember the Braves series, first game of the series, he's throwing basically meatballs, and he gets knocked around for like 7 runs. Like, that was a game. Those were some games that if you win 1 or 2 of them, heck, if you win 1, right? I think it turned out to be just a one game difference. You win 1 more of those games. You win 1 more Charlie Morton start. You're waving the AL Central Division Championship banner. Instead, you're eliminated in the second round again, in Game 5 again, due to you not being able to consistently hit well again. I really hope this is a wake-up call. I do. I just if anybody can identify an issue on this team, and I think most people can, it is the hitting. You don't have the bats. So go out and get some. Alex Bregman is going to be available. Pete Alonso might be available. You're telling me you wouldn't take Pete Alonso over Spencer Torkelson? Spencer Torkelson might be a good player 3 years from now. I don't have time for that. I don't have time for Spencer Torkelson's development. Bring me a middle infield of Pete Alonso, Alex Bregman. I'll take that. Certainly. Let me just look at the free agents MLB 2026. Let's just see. 2026 MLB free agents. So you got Alex Bregman, Pete Alonso, Cody Bellinger. I've been the president of the Cody Bellinger fan club. I love Cody Bellinger. Why don't we go and try and get him? You need a Parker Meadows replacement? Go get Cody Bellinger. He can play the outfield really well, and he has this magical ability where his baseball bat can actually hit the ball and have it land in green grass, unlike Parker Meadows. I'm just saying. Okay? I'm just saying. JT Realmuto out in Philly. He's, I'm not saying these guys are like perfect. They wouldn't be free agents if they were perfect. But Dylan Dingler being basically your only catcher, Would you once again, would you rather a catching duo of Dylan Dingler and Jake Rogers or Dylan Dingler and JT Realmuto? Seems pretty easy to me, right? I'd rather JT Realmuto because Jake Rogers sucks. And he's a fun player. I understand people like him. I like him. But he's not good at baseball anymore. Not that he ever really was, but you know what I mean. Plenty of interesting players, okay? Plenty of players that you would say, okay, these guys would be upgrades at the position or at the very least organizational depth. Because it feels so much better to have, I feel so much better about, say, Marcell Ozuna coming off the bench and pinch hitting for me than Andy Ibanez, for example. I'm just saying, all right? I'm not saying you got to break the bank. I'm not saying you got to, overpay. I'm not saying you got to get all your players in free agency. But could you at least get somebody where teams are like, whoa, Tigers making moves. Tigers trying to improve. They're trying to get themselves into that World Series contender status. I don't know, man. I'm just a fan. What do I know? I mean, that's true. What do I know? Not much. Yeah, I mean, like, nobody looks at Jake Rogers in a lineup and says, oh, man, I got to get through Jake Rogers. Like, he had a 20 homer season. Yeah, that was fine. A lot of it was Fugazi, though. I mean, like, it was not him being so good, right? It is sometimes guys run into it, and he happened to run into it, which is fine. It's fine. You can do that. You're allowed. As far as pitchers go, I don't know. I mean, like, maybe you go out. I just, you know what? I should reopen that. Let me see. History. As far as pitchers go, I mean, Jordan Montgomery is going to be available. Nick Martinez in Cincinnati. Cincinnati's a very cheap organization. Again, I'm not necessarily endorsing any one of these particular players before people say, oh, you wanted, JT Realmuto, and then he goes on to have a terrible season. No, I'm just saying the approach, the attitude should be, let's try to get better now. Instead of, well, let's just hold on to what we've already got. Because you can do both. Like, it's not like you have to. If you sign JT Realmuto, but Dylan Dingler turns into Salvador Perez in his prime, or Ivan Rodriguez, Pudge Rodriguez in his prime, okay, fine. You just burn, like, you eat the fact that you signed JT Realmuto to a 1 or 2 year deal. Who cares? Like, whatever. It's about showing, especially Tarek Skubal, but certainly the fans, that you're not just sitting on your hands and saying, well, just wait until Max Clark gets here. Then you'll see. Maybe I will see. I don't know. Maybe Max Clark is Bryce Harper. I doubt it. Okay? Pretty hard to be Bryce Harper. There's only one Bryce Harper, and it's Bryce Harper. With free agent pitchers, I think going with Skubal, Olsen, Melton, Job, and Flaherty as a 5-man rotation would be fine. Mize, sorry, I'm done. See, I don't know. I think would I rather have Casey Mize and Jack Flaherty? I don't know. I might. Like, I don't think Flaherty's going to opt out. It just doesn't seem like it would make a lot of sense for him. He didn't have an amazing year. You at least could say Casey Mize had a really good first half, and he put together some pretty decent starts in the playoffs. So I think I wouldn't sign him to a long-term deal, but I certainly wouldn't just cut him loose at this point. He could certainly do more for you. And unfortunately, this isn't Reese Olson's fault, but it is his problem. Reese Olson hadn't been healthy. Casey Mize, at least full year of health, at least a pretty good number 2, maybe number 3 pitcher in your rotation. I can live with that, especially given the fact that he was trending towards bust, and he might already be in that category. So, who the heck is that in the Pistons jersey? I thought that was a fan. So, Right now, I got the Pistons preseason game on because there's literally nothing else on of interest. Whoever decided to schedule the NHL or I guess the NHL primarily. This is the only thing that is of interest to me. And I'm watching preseason basketball. That's where I'm at in life. Preseason basketball on the road. It's not even the LCA. I could not care less about the results. But yeah. But look, if I had an offseason of some combination, not necessarily all of these guys, but maybe some combination of a Alex Bregman or a Cody Bellinger or, some combination. One of those guys, maybe a bunch of other ancillary guys, some solid depth guys. I just want to know that we are actually interested in getting better quickly and helping the young players have guys around us or around them that can insulate them and not put, Colt Keith in a spot where he has to get a big time hit when he's only in his second year as a hitter. Just no, it's not helpful to him. All right. Maybe he can be a good hitter. They seem to think so. They signed him to an extension before he even started playing Major League Baseball. I don't know, man. Huh. I did not know Jaden Akins was signed by the Pistons and he's going to be playing. Is he playing in this game? I did not know that. Did not know that about Jaden Akins. I thought he was playing in Italy. Anyway. All right. A lot of baseball talk. Want to mix in some football here. So what should I start with? Should I start with college? Should I start with pro? I have less to say about college. So maybe we just get that over with. All right. Full disclosure. Did not watch this game. All right. Let me just say that one more time. Did not watch Michigan State get its behind whooped by some crappy school in California at home on semi-national television. Did not watch it. But I do have some thoughts. And I have a pretty damning stat. Jonathan Smith, through 18 games, has a worse record than John L. Smith, Bobby Williams, and Mel Tucker. All three of those are in Michigan State's hell Mount Rushmore, like the anti-Mount Rushmore. And all three of them have a better record in 18 games than Jonathan Smith. Now, I know that maybe it's not, you can't say it's entirely equal. I'm sure those guys had different teams. Heck, John L. Smith, he actually started off pretty well. It was really as things went on that things started to get bad. And you even might say, well, Mel Tucker had the year with Kenneth Walker. They were potentially a playoff team that year before getting beaten down by Ohio State, and they want to bowl game. Okay, understood. If you think that Jonathan Smith is even, let's just say, a little bit better as a coach than those guys, wouldn't you think that his record would at least be the same? Would at least be, a few games that it's just I put the only other note I had. Why does this guy have a job? But what do you think his job is? Is his job to go 8-10 in his first 18 games? Because I don't think it is. I think his job is to win Big Ten championships, and better yet, to win national championships for Michigan State. I think that's his job. If you don't think that's his job, then of course he can go whatever he wants. He can go 0-18. What do I care? And once again, I mentioned this on last week's segment. Even though Mel Tucker was a complete and unmitigated disaster, at least there was some juice in the program. At least there was some sense that, okay, Michigan State's got an attitude. They want to be tough. They want to hurt you basically on the football field. And sometimes they want to hurt you outside of the football field. But it was a tough, at least kind of bravado, a swagger. That was the words I used last week. What is the attitude of this team? 1.5 years in. What is the identity of Michigan State? Nothing. They have nothing. There's no, when I tell you I have literally no desire to watch them this Saturday, I have no desire to watch them on Saturday. I don't know even what other games are on. If the Red Wings play or the Pistons play a preseason game, I'll probably watch that. I probably won't watch the Pistons preseason game, but I probably watch the Red Wings over the Pistons over Michigan State. I would. What reason do I have to watch this football team? Because here's what some people will say: "Oh, well, you got to give him time. You got to give him time. Give him time." We're one double overtime drop ball or bad play away from being 2-4 or 2-4. 0-3 in the Big Ten right now. And you're telling me you got to give him time? Like, we got to play at Indiana next week. We just lost by 25 points to UCLA at home. What do you think is precisely going to happen next week? Do you think suddenly Aiden Childs will realize he's actually Steve Young? I don't think so. I think what's probably going to happen is he's going to realize he's just not that good of a quarterback, and Alessio Milabulabu is also not that good of a quarterback. Because anytime he comes in, he's coming in garbage time and the game is over. So I don't want to hear about, oh, well, he's got some good stats. Yeah, he comes in when the team is down double digits because Aiden Childs' offense and Jonathan Smith's elite, motivational and leadership qualities have set the team up so bad that the defense for the other team is basically just playing a numbers game. There's nothing about this team. Like, and for a lot of people, this past game against UCLA, that was their last game. For me, it was Nebraska. I thought, okay, I just like this. To go out the way you did against Nebraska, that's just pitiful. But then I thought, okay, well, they're probably going to beat UCLA. I mean, it's at noon. It's on the Big Ten Network. UCLA's terrible. They don't have a coach. And you lost the game. You lost the game. Ironically enough, in the game where Nick Marsh finally had a pretty good game. He's going to look real good in Columbus. I'll tell you that much. He's going to look real good down south in Alabama. He's going to look real good in Texas. Because one thing's for sure, he's not playing here next year. If Jonathan Smith is still here next year, he's gone. Guaranteed. Same thing happened with Keon Coleman and Mel Tucker. Mel Tucker stayed, Keon left. Mel Tucker played with his ding-dong. Keon Coleman nearly had a playoff berth with Florida State and ended up being a professional, being a player in the NFL for Buffalo. I don't want that for Nick Marsh. I want Nick Marsh to be able to be a winner at Michigan State. But unfortunately, it's just not going to happen. It's not going to happen. It's not going to happen under Jonathan Smith. There's no reason to believe that right now. Even if you want to say, well, he won at Oregon State. I got to tell you something, brother. This ain't Oregon State. All right? This is Oregon State is not a top 25 revenue program in the country or in attendance. Okay? A Pac-12 team, a Pac-nothing team at this point, is not close to the kind of brand that Michigan State actually is. Like, Michigan State, say what you want about the lack of success. It's true. They have not been successful outside of the D'Antonio years. But the D'Antonio years are proof positive that this program can be successful. I mean, heck, if Michigan State is some nothing brand, why are they so good at college basketball and have been for like 40 years? I know that the sports are different, but it's the same media market. It's the same location. Breslin Center's just down the street from Spartan Stadium. I've been there. I've been to both of those stadiums. There's no reason that Michigan State football should be so just pitiful when compared to basketball. And the basketball team isn't even that good either. That's what's crazy. So, if you still believe in Jonathan Smith, I can't force you to change your belief. But I just gotta know why, because it just even looking at like the Michigan State subreddit and just speaking to Michigan State fans, there's just nothing about Jonathan Smith that really leaves a positive impression in people's minds. Nothing about this team. It's so bland. It's so boring. It's so uninteresting. There's nothing. Nothing. So that's all I got to say. I know I'm repeating myself. I realized that went a little longer than I expected, but it is what it is. Worse than John L. Smith. Yeah. We got the wrong John Smith, it turns out. I hate when Mel did and some of the other crap they did, but 2021 is kind of burned into my head since that basically is the third best and most recent. Yeah, right, exactly. Like people will hate to come to terms with this fact, but 2021 was the most success Michigan State football had this decade, and might have. We're halfway through the 2020s. Okay, like that one season we had with Kenneth Walker, that could be, frankly, that could be like every year. That should be the standard. Is Michigan State consistently doing that? Not necessarily, fading away like they did at the end of that year, but like saying we can be a 10+ win team. We can go bowling every single year. At this point, I don't even want to go bowling because I don't think they deserve it. Okay, November is easy. That game showed if we are struggling against UCLA, what makes you think we can beat Minnesota or Maryland to get to 6-1? Exactly. Like even some of these, it's like, oh, well, maybe Penn State is actually really bad, so that game becomes easier. Michigan, they just got blown out to USC. Maybe, Sharon Moore is not it for them. I can't help people who feel this way. How many times you got to get burned before you realize you shouldn't touch a hot stove pot or a hot stove? Like, there's nothing that I can tell you that is going to convince you. If basically at every loss, you just think, well, maybe the next game is going to be easy. The fact is there are no easy games because you're bad. That's how this works. I've lived through bad teams. Even with good teams, there's no easy wins. But at least with a good team, if you lose a game you're supposed to win, there's a sense of, oh, okay, well, that's not what we're supposed to do. When we lose games we're supposed to win, that is what we're supposed to do. Statistically and historically. It sucks. If he beats Michigan and they go 4-8, I'll throw him off. I'll throw him out of East Lansing myself. I don't care if he beats Michigan and goes 4-8. That'd be kind of funny. Like I'd certainly laugh at Michigan fan for that. But who cares? It's the same thing. Like, you think Michigan cared when Michigan State beat them in 21 and then they went on to win the Big Ten and go to the college football playoff? They didn't care. Like, and that was in a time where Michigan State's, possibility of success was still, ongoing. People thought there was a lot of buzz about Mel Tucker at that point. If we go 4-8, but we happen to beat Michigan, all that's going to do is honestly, in a way, show that we're just as uninterested in overall success as any other bad Big Ten team. We beat a game against the rival that we should be beating at least every other year if we wanted to be a competitive rivalry. Shucks. Great. I'd like to do a little bit more than just beat my rival. I'm not mad at you, Detroit fan. This is my point. It would be very funny. Again, I would laugh. I want them to win every game that they play. If they win out, I would obviously be happy. But I'm a real life thinker, and that it's not real life. You can't. It's not going to happen. All right. So, since we're just on a roll here of happy feelings, let's get into the Lions game, shall we? So, tough night in the office. That is how I am defining this game for Detroit. Tough night in the office. This is just how some games go in the NFL. And for Lions fans, and for any NFL fan, we need to accept that these are the kind of things that happen every single year to every single team. Super Bowl winner, Super Bowl loser, playoff team, non-playoff team. Every single year, you play one of those games where nothing goes right for you, but everything goes right for the other team. You play this game back, and you could ask KC fans. I'm sure they'd be honest and say this is true. You play that game back one more time, it's probably not going to be a blow, or as bad as it looks, 30-17. At the very least, it's certainly a closer game, if not an outright change in result, because water has a way of finding its level. Now, let's get into a little bit of the details. Offense had a few crucial mistakes, and namely, those mistakes were on two particular drives. The first one is on a very suspicious penalty on a trick play that, got called back for illegal motion. And I don't have the exact quote here, but basically, the rule is if the quarterback does not get set at the position under center or in the shotgun, I guess, and then he goes in motion, he has to stop while in motion, and then you can snap and run the play. I don't remember what the play clock situation was. Maybe it was like 2 seconds, and then Goff was not perfectly set for the referee's standards. I don't know. When I was watching that play live, there wasn't it wasn't as though he's running and then they snap the ball to Montgomery. I simply put don't understand how these kind of things happen, and seemingly only happen to the Lions, where we'll run a trick play that's so well designed that it beats the defense. The defense had no way of stopping it. And frankly, the only way that play doesn't work out is if Goff dropped the ball, which he almost did, right? That's the only way this play doesn't work out. And the refs then talk about it and say, well, I don't know. We're hearing from New York that there's this rule that maybe he wasn't perfectly set to our standard. The kind of thing that just seems to only happen in one direction. I don't remember them doing that sort of thing during the Philly special in the Super Bowl. I just don't happen to remember that. Maybe they did. Maybe they were deliberating, and it turned out that Nick Foles actually did. I don't know. I'm not a rule expert. You're not a rule expert. It's just kind of funny that happens. Anyway, the other crucial mistake on the offense was the Amon-Ra drop on 4th down, and I said it at the time. I hate those drops. I hate them with a passion. If you don't get it on 4th down, I'm fine. I'm fine with it. I mean, I'm not happy, but I'm fine. If the defense makes a big play, whatever. I'm fine with it. If you execute your play correctly, if you find the open man, if you find the hole in the line, and you just trip or you drop the ball, that I'm less fine with, because everything was set up to where you just had to execute. And Amon-Ra uncharacteristically did not. And otherwise, he had a fine game, 9 catches for 45 yards. Not his best, but not a terrible game by any means. But that was pretty much it for the errors on the offense. I mean, you couldn't really get much of the run game going, unfortunately. Montgomery only got 4 carries, which I thought was a little uncharacteristic. They really were trying to get something going with Jahmyr Gibbs. And Montgomery was averaging 6 yards a carry, granted on 4 carries. But it was a little odd, admittedly, that he did not get a whole lot of handoffs going into that game. As far as the defense goes, they did not play well, completely. They just it was just bad all around. Bad tackling. Just I don't know exactly. I don't know what the numbers are, but bad tackling overall. You had Alex Anzalone was your lead tackler with 12 total tackles. He looked like he was about the only guy who wanted to tackle on that team. I mean, the amount of times where I saw either it was Branch or Kirby Joseph or whomever, that the guys would just bounce right off of them, or they arm tackle. It's that kind of stuff that really does grind my gears. And Mahomes really did have a lot of time. I mean, just 3 total sacks for the team, which, is fine enough. But Mahomes had a lot of time. He was able to break free of sacks that he really shouldn't have. Couldn't get any takeaways despite the strip sack that Hutchinson had. That would have been a huge takeaway. It just didn't look good. It looked like the defense was not ready for this game. And you put that on Calvin Shepard. You put that on Dan Campbell. It is what it is. It was a bad day in the office, like I said at the top. And it gets all the more frustrating when, like I said in the offenses section, you get burned by penalties that are questionable at best. Like the pass interference call on what I believe would have been a 3rd down and 7, 3rd down and 10. I think it was a 3rd down and 10, and it would have been 4th down, and they would have either had to kick it or punt it away. I don't remember what the field position was. And I think it was Anzalone was in coverage, or whomever was in coverage. Travis Kelce was the receiver, and a little bit of tugging, a little bit of hand, but clearly playing the football. And after Kelce complains to the referee, "Oh, here you go, Travis. We know you got to put on a big show for your fiance up in the the suite there. So here you go, buddy. We'll give this to you." Like, okay, that's frustrating. That's hard to deal with. And again, it's compounded on the fact that, look, I've watched a lot of football games. All right, I've watched a number of games of big teams, of small teams, of bad teams, of good teams. I don't really remember the last time I saw a game where one team had all of the penalties and the other had 0. Now, granted, it was only 4 total penalties on Detroit. And granted, KC did have an offsides call that was declined. But I got to tell you, the penalties that did get called just so happened to swing the momentum in favor of KC at exactly the moments where they could have used a break. Lions have a touchdown taken away on their opening drive, right? They could have gone up 7-0. Instead, it's 3-0. And then they can take the lead on their opening drive. Lions come up with a big stop. Oops, pass interference. Now KC goes down the field and scores a touchdown. That's at least a 14-point swing. At least. And again, things happen. Like, you can't just say, well, if they didn't call the penalty, they wouldn't have scored. Not necessarily true. And the other way around. They don't call the penalty, the Lions do score. Maybe they do. I don't know. Like things just happen in real time in these games, and you can't just say, well, these are the specific things that change the game. Unless it's final play of the game. Unless we're talking Cowboys-Lions circa 2023 and Taylor Decker catches a game-winning 2-point conversion, and it's actually taken away because the refs didn't want the Lions to win, and I will go to my grave believing that is the case. It is what it is. Like, the Chiefs, they only had the ball for a little over a minute compared to you, but they were able to take advantage, and they were able to march down the field. They had 26 first downs to your 18. They were 4 for 10 on 3rd down. Not amazing. But they were also 2 for 3 on 4th down. You were 0 for 2. That changes things, right? Things are just, it's just the way that it is. They had 6 trips to the red zone. You had 2. You're not going to win every game. And look, out of this game, there's a few things. And I want to go with the reasons to worry and the reasons to not worry. Reasons to worry: injuries, especially in the secondary. And now you have the suspension to Brian Branch for being an idiot and feeding into Juju Smith-Schuster's obvious trolling. Gets himself suspended for next week. You got a tough stretch of games, especially next week against Tampa Bay. The injuries, especially in the secondary, feel very 2023-ish. I don't want to have to speak Kindle Vildor again, so preferably don't do that to me, Detroit. The reasons not to worry, though: Lions haven't lost back-to-back games since 2022. And they play especially well in primetime games and especially on Monday night games. Go look at Jared Goff's stats on Monday Night Football. They showed it on the last Monday Night Football game they had a few weeks ago. It's really good. And Tampa Bay is going to be without a lot of their wide receivers. That bodes well for you because you're without many of your cornerbacks. But you got to think, okay, you're probably going to be getting Aleem McNeil back sooner rather than later. You could be getting Terrion Arnold back. DJ Reed will eventually come back. You still have a trade deadline where you could go out and get another corner, another depth piece. Amik Robertson, despite, obviously last week notwithstanding, he can put together a very good game for you. And Kelvin Shepard has shown, at least so far, that he's a pretty good defensive coordinator. He might not necessarily be an elite defensive coordinator. That is yet to be seen. But he's a pretty good defensive coordinator. I think that next week does feel like it could be a bounce back game for Detroit for all of those reasons. And that's pretty much the reason why I'm not in complete and utter panic worry mode. I'm not happy. And if they lose next week, I also will not be happy, but I won't be in full blown, let's just get out of here. Like that's just, let's just like shut everything down, go ballistic, need to do something drastic. I'm not in that mode yet. This is going to be a tough stretch, no doubt about it. We knew it going into the season, but I think the Lions are built for it. They certainly have the talent level to do it. And once again, a few plays go your way last week, you win that game in Kansas City, and you're 5-1 instead of 4-2. Last year you lost just 2 games. I'm not saying that that's going to be what happens this year, but people got to get used to the fact that you're going to lose more than 2 games most seasons. Like, I think this team is certainly capable of going 12-5. That means they still got 3 losses on their schedule. I don't know where they're going to come from. They might not come in a comfortable spot. They might be the next 3 games you play. I don't know. But what I do know is that it was a little suspicious what those referees were doing. I'm just saying. It was a little, at least, come on, Kansas City fan, is at least a little suspicious, right? A little. Not like, shut down the league, it's totally fixed and rigged. Just like a little suspicious. A little vicious. A little, not superstitious, just a little stitious. Just saying. All right. Toasted Honey, welcome to the show. Read some of your messages here. Jack Campbell looked like he was not prepared for the KC offense. Yeah, I was a little disappointed in him. He had been leading the team in tackles for most of the games. To be fair to him, he did have 8 total tackles, 4 of them solo, and one of them was a sack. I don't even remember that. I don't remember Jack Campbell getting a sack in that game, but I guess he did. He might have gotten credited for the strip. I don't know. Either way. Yeah, I agree. I think he kind of got a little bit of a tough game for him, for sure. But I really like Jack Campbell, so I'm not going to get so mad at him. Kirby just flew into people. Yeah, it just felt like that. It felt like that for a lot of the guys in the secondary. They're just flying into guys and not actually tackling them. Rest giving them a delay of game when Goff was asked questions was just dumb. Like, here's my thing, though. Like, what was dumber? The refs doing that or the Lions not just going out there and running a play? Like, I don't understand. Like, if your plan was to just kick it and you're like, okay, it doesn't matter whether we go back 5 yards or whatever. Okay, fine. Then go out and complain. But I guess what good does complaining do? Why not just kick the ball and maybe on the sideline during a commercial break, hey, ref, can I talk to you about that call? I just want to know what it is we did, and you can explain. And the other thing about these tricks, like, people don't understand because they think it's just happening in real time. Teams go over these potential trick plays, these kind of weird plays for the referees before the games in the event that they call them. The referees know about these plays. This is what was so frustrating about the Dallas game a few years ago, because Campbell walked them through that play and there was no problem. They understood what the play was. Okay. And then in the game, they totally forgot about it. And I think a very similar thing happened here where, like, we walked him through the play and there was seemingly some miscommunication on their end or on our end, whatever. It is what it is. I think we'll be back next Sunday. Well, the Lions play on Monday. I assume that's what you mean. Yeah, I mean, it's entirely possible. He's from all the reports is that he is a terror in practice at the very least. And you don't. I'm not saying you need to rush him back, but man, it would be good to have him back against Tampa Bay. It really would. Baker Mayfield is a dog. He is a scary, scary quarterback for sure. He's especially frightening because you got to play him in a 1-score game. No, don't want to do that. Tez Johnson is fast. He will be a threat. Yeah, I mean, but if he's the only threat, then maybe you can do something. And the pass rush has been able to get to the quarterback. Baker Mayfield, though, is a little he's suspicious. Not suspiciously. He's surprisingly quick. He's surprisingly nimble. Hard guy to tackle. I do think that you can get to him. And again, I mean, like we've had some pretty good success against Tampa Bay over the last couple of years, against Baker Mayfield specifically at Tampa Bay. You know, we beat him on the road couple of years ago. We beat them at home in the playoffs a couple of years ago. We lost to them at home last year in a game that, frankly, again, you run that game back, probably could have won that game. It is what it is. So, but no, Pistons, Ron Holland looks great and much improved. Yeah, I saw him making a 3 earlier in this game. So that's certainly, uplifting, as Duncan Robinson just hit a 3. It's a 1-point game here in Cleveland, 50-49 Cavs over the Pistons. So, good stuff. Yeah, I know it's a preseason game, so you don't really take the result of the game exactly. You just look at more so the stats the players are putting up and some of the individual performances. But still, it's kind of weaving the guys into real life, into real game scenarios. So, speaking of, I guess Detroit sports, I want to just briefly. Well, you know what? Actually, before we get into the Red Wings, we'll do that at the very end. We'll do the NFL and college recap. I don't have much to say about college because I didn't watch any games. Once again, I was out of town. Sorry, not watching all these games. Not gonna happen. But James Franklin has been fired. How this man kept his job for all these years, I don't know. It doesn't make any sense to me. But he's fired. Penn State, you're free. You can, I don't know, go out and lose in the playoffs like you would anyway. I mean, they're probably not gonna make the playoffs at this rate. But I did find it very funny that they were like, okay, you lose to UCLA, shame on me. You lose to Northwestern, you gotta go. That was bad. Like, it's just like. Yeah, no. See, no. If we picked up James Franklin, you might as well just put the program on a milk carton because it's never coming back. No. I have no interest in James Franklin. I don't care how well he recruited at Penn State. He's not a winning coach. I want a winning coach. He's not one of them. So, but he won 10 games every year. Don't care. If you show no signs of improvement from 10 games, who are you? And also, a little bit easier to do that in Penn State. Just saying. Anyway. I don't have too much else to talk about for the rest of the week in the NFL. The Eagles, though, I do want to talk about them. Are they okay? Eagles, are you guys all right? Because we're now into gonna be week 7. And let me just look up Saquon Barkley's numbers per game here. Not splits. Hold on. Stats. Can I get game-to-game stats? Recent games. Okay. So, okay. Wait. Hold on. I want to see recent games. See all. Okay. This year. Saquon Barkley. One of, supposedly, the top running backs in the league, right? Do you want to know how many games he's rushed for 100 yards so far? We're into the middle of October. Do you want to give it a guess? What do you think? Let's see. They played 6 games? Like 6, 7 games at this point. Let's see, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 games. What do you think? Maybe 2, maybe 3. He's really good running back. 2 games. Actually, it's 0. He has had 0 games where he has ran for 1,000 yards. Or 1,000. Wow. Yeah, I would hope. Ran for 100 yards. Absolutely, unforgivable. You want to know how many games he's had multiple touchdowns? You ready? You think it's 2? 3? Maybe 4? No, it's 0. So no games where he's gotten 100 yards. No games where he's gotten multiple touchdowns on the ground. One might, one might ask in the spirit of Office Space, what is it exactly that you do here? Like, I understand that, he can only do so much. It's not like the whole problem is him, but a large share of the problem is him. He has just not been that good of a running back, straight up. And the scheme, the way they're running this offense, it's just so weird. Like, why does Dallas Goedert lead you in receiving yards in this game? You have A.J. Brown and Devontae Smith. Those guys should be 1 and 2 in leading you in receiving yards every single week. Just a few games and you might get your tight end to a bunch of yards. Understood. is ridiculous that he's got this many yards. Like, Jalen Hurts, yeah, he's throwing the ball 33 times. He's getting 283 yards. I don't care about that number. That's just a stupid, like, if you look at if you say, oh, he's good, like almost 300 yards. Yeah, he's throwing the ball 33 times. I'd hope he'd have almost 300 yards. It's not like, yeah, Hurts is getting sacked. He's throwing everything about the Eagles just feels off. But yet they're 4-2. It's like they got the same record as the Lions, but everything about the Eagles to me just feels like, ooh. I feel like Jim Nance or Tony Romo. Ooh, Jim, I don't know, Jim. Ooh, Jim, I don't know. Are they good? Are they bad? Ooh, Jim, I don't know. Yeah. So anyway, old head coach for LSU. Yeah, I don't think Coach Ogeron is. I don't think Coach O is going to do well here either. I don't. That. As much as I would love it for the memes and for just the humor, I don't. That's not going to work. Kellen Moore for the Eagles was important. It just seems like the Eagles are playing for the players, not for the win. That's a good way of putting it, honestly. Like something feels off in Philadelphia. It's now 2 weeks in a row. And look, you're allowed to get better in this league. You're allowed to have bad days in the office. Lions have had bad days in the office. They had one to start the year. They had one just this past week. But it becomes concerning, when you're playing close games to teams you realistically should be beating the ever-loving breaks off of. In other news, got to talk about the Titans briefly because Brian Callahan, or Ryan, I don't even know what his name, he got fired. He got fired. That's what happens when you lose to the Raiders. Yeah, you can't lose to the Raiders in this league because the Raiders are terrible. The Raiders are 2-4, but somehow they're better than the Titans. Guys, I gotta be honest with you. I don't think the Titans will win another game. I don't think they will. It's so funny when you look at like some of the names on this team because Van Jefferson, he was on a Super Bowl winning team for the Rams. Calvin Ridley, he was supposed to be that guy. Tony Pollard, he was a running back for the Cowboys a couple of years ago. He was pretty darn good for them. And they're all on the same team, and the team is just so bad. Like, it's almost pitiful. Almost. I don't know what in the world the Titans are trying to do. I didn't have much belief in Cam Ward. At this point, it's hard to believe in the kid now. You take a quarterback first overall, he's supposed to be a major difference maker. And if you want to say, look, you got to give him time, Problem is, in these leagues, you don't have time. You don't have the time you think you have. Because every week that Cam Ward plays a bad game or gets sacked or whatever is one less week of positive development for him. Could he turn around? Yeah, you're going to have to really turn the team around overall because if a guy's getting sacked 6 times, it means he doesn't have the protection or he doesn't have the receivers that are able to get open quick enough to where he's able to avoid getting sacked. And look, it was a weak QB class here. Titans needed a quarterback. Cam Ward fell in their lap. But, and you know what? This teams need to build their O-line before drafting a quarterback. And this is one of the obvious facts, but unfortunately, it is lost on many, many, many people, namely people who are in charge of the NFL and GMs and such. You can't have a successful quarterback if you don't have a good O-line. I'm not saying you got to have the best O-line in the league, but if you don't have, a Pro Bowl offensive lineman or a All-Pro player on your offensive line, your quarterback's screwed. Your quarterback who cares who it is? He's screwed. Okay? And even just one can really be a difference maker. I'm telling you, like Penei Sewell for the Lions, he is the difference between this offensive line being, pretty good as it is right now. It's pretty good, not elite, not like it had been the last couple of years. It's pretty good to like really, really bad, basically. And hopefully, we don't have to live that reality, but that is a reality. Like, you have an anchor in there that can just lock down top defensive linemen. It becomes a lot more manageable. And Cam Ward, he's just not going to be developed well there. And we'll see if by the end of the year he can figure it out with the new interim head coach. I don't know what they're going to do, but yeah, it's bad. It's really bad in Tennessee. You hate to see it. You just hate to see it. I actually do hate to see it. I kind of like the Titans. They've just never been good for my whole life. I guess I don't know if I don't really want to talk that much about the other games. Buffalo, yeah, they lost to Atlanta. That was surprising. They got a bad defense. I don't know what to tell you. Although their offense didn't play well either. Just 14 points. And Michael Penix might be that guy, Certainly, it's ironic given like the way that pick was criticized at the time by myself, just because it just didn't really make a whole lot of sense. And I do think it doesn't make a whole lot of sense looking back. It might have worked out. Still doesn't make a whole lot of sense why you signed Kirk Cousins to that deal, especially when you didn't make the playoffs last year anyway. So it's not like you could say, well, they wanted to, have a starter. It's like, well, you could have had a starter for much cheaper. Anyway, Chicago got their revenge. Jaden Daniels continues his sophomore slump. Just looking at the stats here, obviously he had the fumble that pretty much swung the game to Chicago. But Jaden Daniels, he had 3 touchdowns, but 211 yards. He had 52 yards on the ground. To be fair to him, he doesn't exactly have the best supporting class. That running defense, that rush defense they have, not good. Let me just look up the stats here. Rushing, they gave up 145 yards on the ground on just 27 carries. 5 yards a run, half a first down a run. That's not good. That's not good. How regretful should the 49ers feel after paying Purdy $265 million 5 years and Mac Jones is playing arguably better as a game at? I just think that the 49ers are cursed to never actually have the quarterback that they paid to be their quarterback be their quarterback. The same thing happened to Jimmy Garoppolo. They paid Jimmy, or they brought him in. They went to a Super Bowl with him, and then they end up drafting Trey Lance, who's supposed to be their guy, and he gets hurt. And they bring in Brock Purdy, and he becomes their guy, and then he gets hurt. And now they bring in Mac Jones after they pay Brock Purdy, and now Mac Jones seems like he might be their guy. I don't know. It's like maybe it's just the allure of the unknown guy that's what gets them to be successful. I don't like. They feel very paper tigerish. They feel like the NFC version of the Colts, where I'm just like, got a lot of injuries. I don't know if they're legit. I think, water will find its level one way or the other, but something ain't right about that team. Something ain't right. It's like Bobby from King of the Hill. Something ain't right. That boy ain't right. If the Chargers get healthy, who wins the AFC West? Oh, it's the Chargers. If the Chargers get healthy, then it's the Chargers. Like, their offensive line is depleted at this point. But if they get healthy, the Chargers are the best team in that division. The Chiefs, they could turn it on, but the Chiefs are in a hole right now. Even with the win they've had. I don't know that it's sustainable for Kansas City. They're going to get Rashee Rice back next week, but he is a good player. He's a very good player. I don't know that they are, if healthy, if both teams fully healthy, I don't know that the Chargers are worse than them. And the Chargers have the lead right now, I believe. So, if they can stay above water, if Justin Herbert can continue to play at the level he's playing, which is just incredible. Let me just pull up his stats from a couple of days ago here against Miami. A bad Miami team, by the way, but Justin Herbert, 264 yards, 29 for 38. Again, throwing the ball a bunch because they're having to rely on him. 2 touchdowns, just 1 sack on the day. Yeah, They don't even have a running back. They're putting in Kimani Vidal, who ran for 124 yards, to be fair, but I don't even know who that is. They got Hassan Haskins in the backfield, former Michigan Wolverine running back, as many people know. But, yeah, and it sucks for me, who has Omarion Hampton in his fantasy team, that he is hurt right now. So, not happy about that. I would have rather Hampton have those yards, Mr. Vidal, but that's fine. So, yeah, I think they're the best team in that division right now, and certainly the best team in that division, if healthy, I would say. Seahawks and the Rams. I'm not sure who takes the NFC West. Arnold seems like that's like that's a mid-off, is that division. I'd probably lean the Rams because I just don't believe in Sam Darnold as a winning quarterback. Yeah, he could put together some pretty good games for you, but I think when the moment is big, when he needs to be that guy, I just don't think he is. And even looking at his games, like, let me pull up the Seahawks here just a second. Let's see. He played a great game against Jacksonville, but like, yeah, no offense, who cares? Like, who cares about how well you play against Jacksonville? Jacksonville's not that good of a team. Like on the year, like, I guess you could say maybe his best game was Pittsburgh, right? That's a good defense, and he carved them up pretty good. He lost to San Fran in a disappointing way. You carve up New Orleans, but even then he didn't play. He played fine. He didn't have a lot of passing yards, but New Orleans, not a very good team. Arizona, not a very good team. Tampa Bay, you lose, but he played really well in that loss. It's just, I don't know. They have to draft O-line. The Raiders have to. We were just talking about. If they draft on a quarterback, he's going to be the same thing as Cam Ward. Like, you got to draft offensive line. I know that's a good QB class. I know. You got to draft offensive line. That O-line is so bad. It's so bad. If you can at least make Ashton Janty, a threat at any given point, then any quarterback you have is going to be better. Because now you have to respect the run, and that allows the quarterback to be threatening at play action. You got to be able to secure that O-line. They just don't have anybody on that offensive line. Anybody. They got me out there being their offensive lineman. And that, I can assure you, is not a good idea. I can assure you. I'm not. I might look it, but I'm not an offensive lineman. I know. Many people say to me, Mike, you should be an offensive lineman. Unfortunately, I'm not. Look for a quarterback in third or fifth round. I don't know. Like, I'm not totally sold on that. I don't know how long. They're probably going to run with Kyle Allen for at least, this week. This year. I don't know that it's really necessary to go out and get another quarterback. Jared Goff is going to be your quarterback for a while. It doesn't really matter who your backup is, because if you lose Jared Goff, you're done. Maybe my only aversion to this is you already did try that with Hendon Hooker, and that was a disaster and a waste of a pick. Now, again, you could just say, well, just pick the right guy. Sure. Easier said than done when you're talking about third to fifth round quarterbacks to find even competent backups. Truly, it's not easy. But anyway, we will go ahead and wrap this show up though with our picks. So hold on, I'm like jumping into this so weirdly. Let's go ahead and hit the funky music, white boy. Isn't that how that song goes? Anyway, hit the music. There it is. Well, I'm continuing to just struggle against Seth, despite the fact that I actually had a pretty decent week. Of course, anytime I pick differently than Seth, that's when I lose. I can pick very well in tandem with him, but once I go against him, that's when I start to lose. I hate it. I hate it here. So, anyway. Let's get it started here. Thursday night football. Steelers at the Bengals. Seth is taking the Steelers, and I will concur here. Yeah, it's not so much that I think the Steelers are that good. I don't. But the Bengals are just so bad. Joe Flacco coming in for Jake Browning to help save them is not a winning recipe. Give me the Steelers. I think they're going to be able to win this game fairly easily. Rams at the Jaguars. Seth is taking the Rams. Yeah, I'll take the Rams as well. Not sure what the status will be. I believe Puka Nacua got hurt last week. I could be wrong about that. And obviously, even in their game last week against the Baltimore Ravens, it wasn't perfect. This could be a little bit of a trap game. Maybe Jaguar, the old up-down theory. They lost on a tough game to Seattle. Maybe they're on the upswing. Rams, they might be going downward. I just feel a little more confident about the Rams than I do the Jaguars. So give me the Rams. Saints Bears. Ooh, yuck, gross. I'm gonna throw up. Give me the Bears. They've been playing at least decent football the last few weeks, I think. I mean, they got the win this past Monday nights over Washington. The Saints are terrible. I don't need to say much about them. The Bears are at least semi-talented. So, give me that. Dolphins at the Brownies. Oh, man, this is a disgusting act. I don't know who to pick. Honestly, I'm going to go with the Browns. That Dolphins team just feels so... This feels like a total trap game for Miami. Like, really tough defense. Tua has struggled. Dylan Gabriel, not great, but maybe he can put together a scoring drive or two, and maybe that's all they need. I don't know, man. This could be like a 6-3 win. Whatever. Give me the Browns. I got to go against Seth at some point. Maybe sometimes I'll get this right. Raiders at the Chiefs. Yeah, I'm not going to say anything more. Chiefs are going to murder them. Raiders are terrible. Eagles at the Vikings. Seth is going to the Eagles. I'm going to agree. I will also take the Eagles. I think this is their bounce back game. Although, granted, going on the road to Minnesota, that's a tough place to play in. US Bank Stadium, those are some rowdy fans. That's a tough environment. They get that stupid ass horn every time they get a first down. Tough place to play. Eagles definitely got to play their A game, though. You can't have another game where Saquon's not rushing for more than 100 yards. You can't have another game where he's not getting touchdowns. If he's not running the ball well and they're putting the offense into the hands of Jalen Hurts to win them football games with his arm, I just don't know that the scheme is there. I don't know. I don't like the vibes are bad. Vikings coming off their bye, but I still think the Eagles get the win. That's how I feel. Panthers at the Jets. Ew, yuck, gross. I'm going to vomit and puke and throw up and poop my pants right now at this game. I have to take the Panthers just because I can't pick the Jets until they give me a reason to pick them. That game against the Broncos in London was a act of international terrorism, as far as I'm concerned. That was terrible. Panthers, they're also terrible, but they at least have won a game or two. Give me them. They're off the high of beating Jerry Jones' Cowboys, which is hysterical. Patriots at the Titans. Yeah, give me the Pats. I imagine the Titans will probably look a little better. New coach bump and all. You know, you fire your old coach. You get a new voice as your leader. It's usually kind of a player favorite among the staff. I still don't think it's going to be good enough. I think Drake May is really starting to come into his own. Give me the Patriots. Giants at the Broncos. Give me the Broncos. Yeah. Jackson Dart managed, and Cam Scatterbo both managed to have pretty good games last week. Thursday night, they're on a long break. Broncos coming back from London. But I don't anticipate that Giants offense beating this Bronco defense. It could be an ugly game. Bo Nix, I'm not a huge Bo believer, but I do think that he's capable of beating this Giants team. So give me the Broncos. Colts at the Chargers. Seth is taking his Chargers, and I am going to agree with him. I just don't believe in the Colts. I know they keep winning. I know. And, this is another opportunity where they could win this game because the Chargers struggle at the offensive line position, and they're dealing with a lot of injuries. This could be another game where Indianapolis gets just another one of those feather in the cap wins, or maybe Justin Herbert just puts the team on his back. Yeah, give me the Chargers. Come on. Packers at the Cardinals. Yeah, I've already declared it last week. Never picking the Cardinals. Give me the Pack. I don't need to elaborate further. The Cardinals are so bad and so embarrassing. They don't deserve an explanation. Give me the Packers. Commanders at the Cowboys. Seth is actually taking the Cowboys. I'm going to disagree. I'm going to take the Commanders to get the win here on the road. I understand taking the Cowboys. They got a good offense. Unfortunately for them, they do have to play defense, and they have struggled to do that. If you can't stop the Carolina Panthers offense of Bryce Young and friends, I don't know that I trust you on the defensive side. The Commanders do struggle to run the ball, or rather, they struggle getting the ball run against them. I do think they will be able to at least unleash enough offensive firepower to try and keep up with the Cowboys. Hopefully, they can do it because I just think it would be funny. I just want to see Jerry Jones' face if they lose again at home. That would just be funny. So I'm rooting for the Commanders anyway. Give me the Commanders. Falcons at the 49ers. Seth is taking the 49ers. Oh, man. I don't know. Jim. Oh, it's tough to go on the road and win. It's also tough to do it on a short week, Atlanta. Jim. You know what? I'm going to go with the Falcons. I'm going to go against Seth. I like Michael Penix. I like Bijan Robinson. They got some weapons. 49ers are ravaged with injury. The Mac Jones experience cannot truly last this long. We saw it. They got murdered to the Buccaneers. I don't think that the Falcons are as good as the Buccaneers, but they got to be at least a little close. They got to be at least a little bit less good. So if they're just a little bit less good and the Buccaneers were rolling the 49ers, the Falcons got to get this win. Give me Atlanta. And then finally, or no, not finally. I guess finally we get to Monday night. We got a double header. Buccaneers at the Lions. Seth is taking the Lions. Yeah, you know what I'm taking. I'm taking the Lions. I think it's a bounce back spot. Lions haven't lost 2 in a row since 2022. And it just feels like a bounce back spot. Buccaneers dealing with injuries to their receiver room. You might not have Emeka Igbigbu, or whatever. I'm only going to call him that. I know that's not how his name is pronounced. Emeka Igbigbu. He could be out this game. They're out Mike Evans. They're out Chris Godwin. It's not gonna be an easy game by any means because Baker Mayfield is a tough competitor. But this just feels like a bounce back game. Things didn't go right for Detroit last week on the road. You're gonna be back at home Monday night. Jared Goff loves playing on Monday night. He always seems to ball out on those games. Give me the Lions. And then finally, for whatever reason, we have a second Monday night game, and it's at like 10 o'clock at night. So I'm sure if the Lions win, I'll just be super excited. I'll probably catch a little bit of this game. Texans at the Seahawks. Seth is taking the Seahawks. Yeah, got to go with the Sea Chickens in this case. Texans offense is terrible. Their defense is good, so they might be able to, limit Sam Darnold at least a little bit. But I just don't think they have enough. I really don't. This Texans team is just such a negative vibe. I don't think this will be a pretty game. I think there's probably a reason they're putting this game on at 10 o'clock because they don't anticipate many people are going to be watching this game outside of people in Seattle and Houston. And even then, not sure that's really going to be a draw for people. But give me the Seahawks. Whatever. Sam Darnold's going to get another stat padding victory. That's fine. All right, rounding it out. Steelers, Bengals, both taking the Steelers. Rams, Jaguars. We are both taking the Rams. Saints, Bears, both taking the Bears. Dolphins, Browns. I'm taking the Browns, and Seth is taking the Dolphins. Raiders, Chiefs. We are both taking the Chiefs. Eagles, Vikings. We're both taking the Eagles. Panthers, Jets. We are both taking the Panthers. Patriots, Titans. We're both taking the Patriots. Giants, Broncos. We're both taking the Broncos. Colts, Chargers. We're both taking the Chargers. Packers, Cardinals. We're both taking the Packers. Commanders, Cowboys. I am taking the Commanders. Seth is taking the Cowboys. Falcons, 49ers. I am taking the Falcons. Seth is taking the 49ers. Buccaneers, Lions. We are both taking the Lions. And Texans, Seahawks. We are both taking the Seahawks. And those are your Week 7 NFL picks. All right. I need Walter. The Ravens even play this week? No, I think the Ravens are on a bye. Yeah, Ravens are on a bye this week. Are they really? Am I crazy? Yeah, I think they are on a bye. Huh. I'm going to have to bench Derrick Henry in fantasy then, as it turns out. All right. So, that is the end of the show. Another great show. Such a good time. Pistons down 5 at the beginning of the third quarter here in the preseason to Cleveland. That's kind of cool. They got lights on what appears to be some old building. That's not the capital because Columbus is the capital of the state of Ohio. But anyway, we'll be back on, not Sunday. Monday, we will be doing the Lions-Buccaneers game. So, of course, keep the eye out for that. Other than that, we'll be back on Tuesday night to break down all the sporting news of the week. Oh, and I didn't even mention Zadarius Smith retired. Yeah, I hate to see it. Now I'm glad we didn't get him. I'll say that. Maybe that was why we didn't go and get him, because he was saying he might retire. And they were like, well, if you're not committed, we're not going to commit. So, weird stuff, but it is what it is. So, yeah, with that said, once again, we'll be back on Monday for the Lions-Buccaneers Monday night game. That game is at 7. It's a little bit earlier than your typical Monday game. So just be on the lookout for that. But with that being said, if you have not already, hit the like, hit the subscribe button. I really do appreciate it. And I want to get to 500 subscribers before the end of the year. And we've only got about 2.5 months, maybe 1.5 months. Yeah, 1.5 months. Wait. 1 month is whatever. We got some amount of time before that. We got until December 31st. That's how years work. Anyway, hit the like, hit the subscribe, leave a comment. I love reading the comments, especially the ones that make fun of me. Those are my favorite kinds of comments. So please leave a comment that says I am stupid. Those are my favorite comments to read. Please do. So that is going to be it. Have a good rest of your night, everybody. And I will see you all on Monday for the Lions Bucks. See you later. Goodbye.